Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, this week will mark the end of the 21-22 legislative session, and it has been candidly a bloodbath for you, the lawful and responsible gun owner. So we're going to spend a few minutes today talking about all the different ways the Washington State Legislature disarmed its citizens in 2022. Okay, before we get rolling, you guys know the drill. Click the like button if you like the video. Click subscribe if you want to stay up to date on this. Click the little bell logo if you want to be notified when we post new videos. And most importantly, let's keep the comments and discussions coming. That's how we're going to make sure we're getting our videos out to more lawful and responsible gun owners like yourself. Okay, first of all, huge thanks to all of you who endured this legislative session with us here at Washington Gun Law. We did a lot of videos over the legislative session about all of the issues, individual issues, and you guys were fantastic throughout this whole process. Huge shout out to Chess Lover, our legislative gladiator, who was Johnny on the spot on everything. There were 7 bills that we were tracking. I'm going to go over each and every one of them in kind of short order so you can understand what did happen, what almost happened, and it's important to know what almost happened because as we've learned with some of the legislation that was successful at passing this year, this was not the first, the second, or the third time for some of this stuff. So the stuff that didn't get off the ground this year does not mean necessarily that you will not see it again and again, and ultimately you could see its passage if we're not careful. Okay, we're going to start off with Substitute Senate Bill 5078. That is the magazine ban. Okay, we're not going to call it the high capacity magazine ban, even though that's what the legislature calls it, because really it's a ban of many standard capacity magazines as well. The effective date on that is July 1st of 2022. We're going to do a separate video about the good, the bad, and the ugly about that bill. We've already also done one. We did one the very morning following its passage. So if you guys want to get up to speed on Senate Bill 5078 and what it really means to you, go ahead and check that out. Okay, another bill to pass was House Bill 1705. Now, this has an enactment date of July 1st of 2022, but there's another deadline out there, and that's March 10th of 2023, so roughly 1 year from today's date. Now, 1705 bans untraceable firearms and unfinished frames or receivers, and there's a whole definitional section in there. We are going to be doing a video about all the loopholes that we think are in House Bill 1705. We'll put the link for that down below. The effective date is July 1st of 2022. The date for which we have to get all of our firearms into compliance with that law is March 10th, 2023. That's House Bill 1705. Okay, the only other piece of legislation to pass was House Bill 1630. House Bill 1630 is an expansion of the restrictions in RCW 9.41.280, which restricts firearms currently in school facilities. This now extends that restriction into all facilities in which school boards are conducting their business. That is apparently an emergency order, so as soon as the governor signs it, it will be in effect. Okay, now I want to go over some legislation that will not be making it to the governor's desk, but you need to be aware of this because for those of you who watched the videos last year about last year's legislative session, we were talking about a high-capacity magazine ban as the legislature was kicking it around last year, and it reared its ugly head again this year. So this can kind of give you a sneak peek at what's coming. Now, a Senate bill that seemed to be cruising right along was 5561. Now, without getting too far into the woods, what 5561 would have done was rewrite the rules for restoring our Second Amendment rights following felony convictions. And for those individuals who had felonies and there was an allegation that a firearm was used in the commission of that felony, it would have made things a lot more difficult. It would have added a lot more time to the time limits for which they have to remain law-abiding citizens before they can even begin to entertain the idea of petitioning. Now, when we talk about saving lives, it would appear that individuals who perhaps in the past have had felonious conduct, perhaps in the past who have had felonious violent conduct involving the use of a firearm, might be perhaps slightly more inclined to commit further violent crime. It would appear that if the legislature was trying to save lives, 5561 would have been an excellent piece of legislation. Now, it passed out of the Senate no problem, got to the House, passed through committee and House, and was teed up just like all of the other bills going into Thursday and Friday. All it had to do was be called to the floor for a vote, and nothing ever happened. That is Senate Bill 5561. For those of you who are in the limited category of you have lost your Second Amendment rights and you believe that you're eligible to restore them now, you want to pay careful attention, and you might want to talk to a lawyer sooner rather than later, because if this legislation comes back around, there's a whole category of people who are right now eligible to restore that will not be eligible to restore if this legislation were to go into effect. Okay, along the same lines as 1630 was House Bill 1618. Now, that would have limited or prohibited the carrying of firearms to all election places and places in which we're counting ballots. Now, I did not know that was a problem in Washington State, but that certainly has never stopped certain political parties from doing certain things. I anticipated that this bill would just move along quickly like 1630. It essentially went nowhere. It got read on the House floor. It went into committee. It never came out of committee. It really had an incredibly short shelf life, and that was the end of House Bill 1618. Now, as terrible as things were this year, and yes, it was a complete unadulterated bloodbath for the lawful and responsible gun owner, and none of us are happy about it, but as terrible as it was this year, it could have actually been worse, because let us not forget that Senate Bill 5217 was kicking around. Now, what would that have done? Oh, that would have been a ban on all ARs, assault rifles. Now, okay, right now I know some of you are flipping out. You're calling them assault rifles. I'm only using the language that's in the legislation. But this would have banned hundreds and hundreds of lawful firearms. That's Senate Bill 5217. Now, that got into committee in the Senate, and it never went anywhere. Now, listen, I want us all to be careful attention, because I believe that the gun control folks in this state are very emboldened by what's happened with 5078 and 1705. And it would not surprise me if this becomes an initiative sponsored at the bequest of our Attorney General. So do not be surprised if this November we have an AR ban kicking around as an initiative, and we know the misinformation campaign that comes with initiatives. And then finally, and this is actually really important, Senate Bill 5568. Now, this actually ended up getting X'd out of the Rules Committee, and I think there's a very good explanation for this. Now, 5568 was just this, it's just going to allow cities and counties to restrict firearms in their buildings, and that was the way that it was kind of gift wrapped. But if you took a look at it, what it really was it was a carving out of the state exemption law. And once we start carving out from that, we're just going to keep carving out. And it would have created a situation somewhere down the road where we would have this hodgepodge of gun laws throughout our state, depending on what county or municipality we may have been in. And it would have been a complete and unadulterated disaster for the state. Now, it would have been in clear violation of the state's preemption law, and that is why I believe that when it got into the Senate Rules and Judiciary Committee, it got X'd, because I think people probably looked at it and figured out, hey, this bill is in violation of the state preemption statute, and it's not going anywhere. But I do want us all to be careful about it, because this is not the first time that they've taken a run at this, and this will not be the last time. And so when we start seeing legislation which is designed to allow cities and counties just to set a few restrictions here or there, just remember what they're doing is they're asking the state to step aside. And while we certainly do not like what the state has done with our gun rights, especially this legislative session, do we really want the city of Seattle, the city of Tacoma, King County, Pierce County further dictating what we can and cannot do with our Second Amendment rights? So that is the wrap up of the legislative session. Now, there is a couple of days left going up to March 10th, but unless these are budgetary items, the time for any other bill has come and gone. We did have some significant anti-Second Amendment legislation passed this year. Senate Bill 5078, a magazine restriction. We've done videos on that. We'll put the links for that down below. House Bill 1705, an absolute ban and restriction on 80% or lowers or unfinished frames of receivers, as well as untraceable firearms. And 1630, which expands the restrictions under 941-280 we can no longer carry firearms to places where school districts are conducting business. Listen, we'll be doing more videos as we do more autopsies on what occurred this legislative session. In the meantime, if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or of course you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now let's remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.